Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple 2-3 best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are going to be talking about the first place Cubs, the first place White Sox, dabble in a little Bears, and go from there. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. So head on over to icehogs.com and check out all the cool stuff you can get for the person in your life that you're celebrating on Father's Day. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, we had a pretty big week in Chicago baseball this week.
Yeah, and big as in pretty good, I would say. It's always good when we can positively say big week because we're often used to saying big as in negative with Chicago baseball, but not this week.
Not this week. And, you know, the only thing that separated us from a perfect week on the north side is you jinxing them, Alex.
Yeah. A friend and I went to the game Sunday where they lost 5-1. They had one hit going into the 8th inning. And I told my friend as we went, I said, hey, they're hot. They're on a win streak, so that means they're probably going to lose. And sure enough, they lost. And, you know, my friend, every time Baez came to bat, he said, oh, just watch. Javi's going to blast one. Javi's going to blast one. And he never did. And then I told him after the game on our way home, I said, watch tomorrow. He's going to blast one or two. Sure enough, he blasts two. Not only did he blast two,
the what?
He blasted two.
Like they were Sammy Sosa territory.
Well, yeah, you know, the one reminded me of the one he hit in 2003 in the NLCS where it hit the top of the camera well. That was pretty much the same spot.
I think the one I heard was like the third longest Javi Baez home run.
Only the third, huh?
That's a. I mean, for a guy that has hit some monster shots, that's impressive.
Well, you know what else is funny too is I was talking with my friend, and we like to make small little bets about what's going to happen during the game. And, you know, I mean bets, we mean like, oh, you owe me a Slurpee from 7-Eleven if that person hits that on a fly ball, or if you catch one of my favorite bets was if one of us catches a foul ball, then the other has to buy him Portillo's. So, you know, fun little bets like that. And I was telling him how probably the farthest home runs you'd see at Wrigley Field to dead center are going to be in that camera well area, or at least a few rows up in that center field area. And I also told him, I'm like, you know, no one's ever hit the center field scoreboard. So he said, if someone hits the center field scoreboard, I will buy you a new car. Because that seemed like a pretty safe thing to do. But yeah, you know, I was talking about that. And, you know, sure enough, the next day, that's where Baez hit his first one. I think the longest home run that I've seen in person at Wrigley to center field, I was in the bleachers in 2018. It was a win against the Twins. And Kyle Schwarber hit one like to the very back of the center field batter's eye. So you know how the batter's eye has like that luxury box area, and there's got like the top roof, and then right above that is like kind of that barrier that's between the bleacher concession stand and the batter's eye. Schwarber hit one right there. That's probably the longest I've ever seen. But, you know, with Baez, that was over that, off that camera well. I mean, that was a shot.
Yeah, he bamboozled that one. He gave it a ride.
Yeah. I was also joking with him, too. I said, you know, that yellow building across the street, Glen Allen Hill once hit one up there. So what do I get if somebody hits a home run ball up there? And I think he said, I told him, I bet it. I said, if someone hits it on the Glen Allen Hill building, I will buy you a very nice steak dinner from a nice steak restaurant of your choice. But no one came close. In fact,
I don't think anybody's. I don't know if anybody's ever going to get close to that again.
Yeah, it's not the steroid era anymore. And the particular game I was at, I don't think a Cub hit it more than like 250 feet. Like, honestly, Contreras had the first hit of the game for the Cubs, which was a single to center field. All the other Cub hits were like ground ball singles through. Like, the Cubs did not drive anything in the air. Nothing. So that was frustrating, but oh well. It happens.
So, the big news this week, the Cubs only lose that one game, and they eke ahead of the hated St. Louis Cardinals to take a very, very slimmest of margins, first place in the division, which, it's normally not a reason to celebrate based on our expectations, but I would say our expectations have altered for this year based on, injuries, based on the starting rotation, based on, our expectations of what the bullpen was, which is much different than what the bullpen has been. And at this point, I still don't have long-term or, grandiose hopes for the Cubs this year, but it's June 1st. They're in first place. I'm going to celebrate it.
Yeah, and you remember when April ended, they were in last.
Yeah.
They were dead last.
And clearly we all knew they weren't a last place team because that's
right.
That's the Pirates. I mean, it's very clear the Pirates aren't a good team, but it did not look like the Cubs were anywhere close to a first place team. And, here we are. It's a little bit of the Cubs go on a winning streak, and nobody wants to run away with this division. I don't think anybody has the talent to run away with this division.
Well, no, I mean, this month is the perfect example of what key teams in the division, what they have in terms of strengths and what they have in terms of weaknesses. So think about April. We saw weaknesses from the Cubs where hitting was inconsistent and the starting pitching was flat not good. With the Brewers, we saw their team win with their starting pitching, despite having Christian Yelich injuries and a not very good offense. And with the Cardinals, you see, okay, you got guys like Yadi Molina, Nolan Arenado that can help you get some wins. But come May, you see some of the strengths come out. You see how good this Cub offense can be when it's rolling. You also see how kind of little maybe I valued the Cubs bullpen, and we'll get to that more in detail in a minute. So you're seeing some of the strengths there, and then you're seeing some of the weaknesses with the Brewers. Their lack of offense has caught up to them a little bit. And with the Cardinals, I'm not saying they're a bad team, but they got themselves some flaws. Outside Nolan Arenado, they've made some really bad defensive miscues, especially against the White Sox. We saw it here in Chicago firsthand, and their bullpen is not very good at all either. Now, the Reds are banged up. Joey Votto's out. Eugenio Suarez is playing, but he's not playing very well. Mike Moustakas is out. Luis Castillo sucks all of a sudden, and I really don't understand why. And then there's the Pirates who, are irrelevant at this point. But, my whole point is you're seeing over the past month just the strengths and weaknesses of all these teams. And it really shows at the end of the day, all these teams have warts, and all these teams are dealing with some injuries. Maybe not so much the Cardinals, but look at the Brewers. They've had Christian Yelich hurt. The Cubs have had a laundry list of injuries.
A laundry list. Let me look. Marisnik, hammy. Jason Hayward, hammy. Matt Duffy, back. Trevor Williams, appendix. David Bodie, shoulder, which I think he's going to be out more than 10 days.
Yeah.
He's on the 10-day list. I think it's going to be more than 10 days.
Yeah.
Nico Horner, Alec Mills, Justin Steele, Austin Rowan Wick. Like
Anthony Rizzo missed some time.
Anthony Rizzo, yeah, he's back, but we're at the time of the year where Anthony's back is starting to bother him, and it's a little early this year for that. Makes me nervous.
Yeah. Boy, I'll tell you, that Nico Horner injury, when he was running down the line on that bunt, when he was getting close to the base, I thought, oh no, and then sure enough, I saw him flying on the ground, and I'm like, no, because as soon as you saw him grab his hammy and didn't get up, you knew that was bad.
Yep.
And at that point, it's not like the injuries came after that. They were already banged up. Duffy and Hayward were already hurt. Marisnik had been hurt. So it's not like that was what started all the injuries. They were already banged up. And then to lose a guy like him, who's been so good. Nico Horner has been everything you could ask for and more. Hitting the ball hard, and making some absolute web gems over on the infield. So that was just a huge, huge loss. But, with this team, it's been next man up.
It really has.
Both pitching and hitting.
It really has been. I mean, Wisdom stepping in, and he had 2 home runs the other day.
Yeah.
You get pitching. You get starts from Cole Stewart, who pitches a good game.
Very impressive against a good team.
Yeah, it's really been next man up, and guys are just doing their thing.
Now, I can't say the numbers reflect it or that Ortega's very good, but he's had a timely hit here or there, and even if he doesn't last very long, at least you could say he's been able to contribute somewhat. So you're pretty much getting contributions from most of the people you're trying out here, which is really nice to see. And maybe, just maybe, that this bullpen and this next man up philosophy that they've had to have because of the injuries, maybe we're actually seeing positivity from the Cubs pitching development. Keegan Thompson, Justin Steele before he got hurt. They took a waiver on Cole Stewart. I know he wasn't a prospect of the Cubs, but they tried to kind of mold him into something better. Maybe we're actually seeing that come together. Maybe some actual pitching development and some positivity. We haven't seen that in a few years.
Yeah, and you add into that, it's not bullpen, but Edward Alzolay looking good.
Yeah, every start I like him more and more.
It's like, now, you're right. It's like every start, it's like he builds on the last one, and we saw that previously. You'd be like, good start, bad start, good start, bad stuff start, and you'd see, I see the stuff that I like, but now you're starting to see good start, good start, good start, meh start, good start, good, and you're seeing the stuff he's throwing, and you're like, all right, I am starting to feel very confident that this could be, a front end type starter for the Cubs going forward.
Well, yeah, because you see him throw actual stuff. That's kind of rare in this rotation now. You see a fastball 95 plus. You see the wicked movement on the slider. I know it was a loss. He didn't get any run support, but when you saw him pitch that beautiful game in St. Louis last week, I mean, it's really tough to pitch in that ballpark. Not because it's a hitter-friendly park, but it's always tough to play the Cardinals in St. Louis. Seeing him put that type of effort and then able to win a 1-0 game the next day, even if it wasn't quite as crisp, but I'll give him a pass because the weather was terrible. I mean, like you said, you're seeing him kind of build off things. And that's what you need from this guy. As I said, going into this season, you have to take the training wheels off him. You have to let him go every 5 days consistently. And the results have been pretty good so far. And it's really important to have him do that because you look at the rest of the rotation and you say, a lot of these guys aren't going to be here in the near future, and you need somebody with stuff. You can't rely on the Kyle Hendricks, Zach Xavier type with everything now. You need some guy with velocity.
Right. And, it's not going to be too much longer before we start seeing Braylon Marquez.
Mm-hmm.
I'm imagining sometime this summer, right?
I would hope so. I would really hope so. And honestly, I would like to see Keegan Thompson get some more starting knots. And you might have to see it like, Trevor Williams, he went down with the appendectomy. Obviously, Keegan Thompson had been pitching out of the pen, so he wasn't fully rested, so he had to go with Cole Stewart. But, Cole Stewart or Keegan Thompson, you give them a few more opportunities, then, hey, you might be able to form something decent. And pertaining to the rotation, I hate saying it. I really do. But I'm starting to think that Arrieta really might be the weak link in this. I did a deep dive on the numbers. They're not great.
No, they're not. And, he's at least out there every 5 days pitching, but
right.
There's some stinkers in there. Sunday, you were there. Sunday's game, not very good.
No, and I know the first inning was a combination of him and a combination of bad defense, but, the bad defense leading to more runs, those runners were on because he let them on, and the command was not great, and he wasn't really fooling anybody. I mean, when I did the deep dive in numbers, and this article is going to come out in Cubby's Crib, last year he had the ERA above the fielding independent pitching and the xFIP. So basically saying that, the ERA was kind of worse than what he was actually pitching to, whereas this year, in a similar sample size, the ERA is better, where the FIP is higher and the xFIP is higher, but the ERA is about 4.4. And I look at the contact rates and the barrels and the ground ball rate. The ground ball rate is well down his usual, his usual average, his usual rate is about 50-ish%. It's like 39%. And the barrel rate is much higher than normal. The hard hit rate is much higher than normal. And the velocity is lower than ever, which we kind of already expected. So, he's been the guy that's been trying to rely on sinkers and movement to try to get ground balls. He's not giving up ground balls. He's giving up fly balls and hard contact. He's already giving up 9 home runs. They're hitting him. And that's the thing. If he's going to be more efficient, he's got to get more balls on the ground. How is he going to adjust to that? Can he adjust to that at this point? Remains to be seen. But, until he proves me otherwise, if the first 10 games tell me something, he really might just kind of be toast at this point. I mean, he's 35. He's pitched a lot. He had a great prime. But, if the last few seasons are any indicator in the trends and what he's looking at right now, I really don't know how much more efficiency we could squeeze from him. Sure, he'll probably give you a decent start here or then, but, he's a 4 at best at this point.
Yeah, honestly, I was hoping we would get a late-stage John Lester where, he would at least tough it out and, use the defense behind him. But instead, we're really getting the John Lackey where, at the end, where he's just giving up long balls.
Yeah, pretty much. Speaking of which, John Lackey was at the game I was at. They showed a video compilation. Oh, of course. Of course. Buttercup was sitting next to him right in the suite because they showed him on the Jumbotron in the suite, and they played I Got Friends in Low Places. It was funny. I'm like, of course I'm at the game John Lackey's at.
John Lackey.
I was waiting for him to be like, screw it, I'm going to go down there and throw myself.
So, that begs the question. At some point, the Cubs have a bunch of farm prospects that we're expecting to see in the coming years, either this year or next year. Mm-hmm. At what point do you think that they start bringing guys up? I would imagine if, they're going to bring somebody up, I'd imagine, when you start getting 29 games in 30 days later in the summer and after the trade deadline when they trade off everything that's not nailed down. Who do you expect to see?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, the guys on my radar coming soon, there's several of them. There's Braylon Marquez, as we mentioned before. There's also Miguel Amaya, their top catching prospect. And, you might see him sooner or later because you got Wilson Contreras, but, backup catcher, I don't think you're going to roll with PJ Higgins the whole way. And who knows when Austin Romine's coming back. So it might be an opportunity to look at a guy like Miguel Amaya.
Or if, unfortunately, you see a Wilson Contreras injury.
Right.
I think that's your best option.
Right. Unless you make a minor trade for a veteran somewhere. But, I'd put him on the radar. One of the main guys I have on my radar is Brennan Davis, outfielder. He's been a very good hitter in the minors. I don't know when we'd see him exactly, but I feel like that day is coming fairly soon. I think the projected time is either end of 21 or 2022. There are other guys in the system like Ed Howard who are still way down there. I don't think we're going to see him this year. And, there's probably a few other guys I can't think of off the top of my head, but the ones that are really on my radar are Davis, Marquez, Amaya, that I could think of. Obviously, we've brought up Justin Steele, and hopefully he gets well soon because he was pitching very well. It'll be interesting because this next wave is going to be coming soon, like you said, regardless. And you want to make sure that, they come at both the right time. And you hate to see people get hurt. You hate to see it due to unfortunate circumstances. I mean, that's what happened to Nico Horner, if you remember. Guys got hurt. They had nobody else. They brought up Horner. You just want to make sure that they're able to come up when they're ready. But, sometimes drastic times call for drastic measures. I would just hate for somebody to get rushed up too fast. But I think the guys that I just rattled off are as close to the majors as I could think of.
Looking at their top 30 list, the guys that are expected to come up either this year or next year, there's quite a few. You've got Darius Valdez, Brendan Little, who I believe we have seen, Corey Abbott, Riley Thompson, Keegan Thompson,
which we've seen.
Ryan Jensen, and then Braylon Marquez. So there's quite a few pitchers that we've seen some. I think by the end of the year we probably will see others. Especially come trade deadline when I could see. I mean, there's a
It's just a matter of time before we see Braylon Marquez, in my opinion.
I think so. I think by the end of the season, you will 100% see him, barring any injury. I don't know how you keep him down. You got to give him that taste because you're going to be relying on him next year.
And remember, we saw him for like a third of an inning or 2/3 of an inning at the very last game last year.
Yeah, because honestly, in this offseason, I don't expect the Cubs to be big spenders.
I don't necessarily either. I think they're going to try to evaluate what they have. And then maybe the season after, when you've had a few seasons of the Marquee Network and maybe some more time for people to buy pumpkins at Gallagher Way, you'll be able to spend some money.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree from a baseball perspective because you're like, all right, well, we sort of restocked the farm system in some ways. We got to see what we have. And if you block guys with expensive free agents, you never find out, except for injuries or things like that. I think you sort of have to see. And from the Ricketts perspective, they're just like, man, that's less pumpkins I gotta sell at Gallagher Way.
But we do like to sell pumpkins regardless.
Yeah, so you need to be able to figure out who can play, who can't, and reassess your timeline for bringing guys up. Because you look at this rotation And Zach Davies is not going to be here next year.
No. Who knows if he's even here by August?
If they can get rid of him in a trade, they will.
Oh yeah, if they could trade him for like a bag of balls, they probably will.
Yeah, just to dump that salary, which is not a crazy salary, but just to dump it anyway. Arrieta will not be here next year.
No.
What's
Trevor Williams won't be.
He probably I was trying to think if he had a 2-year deal or a 1-year deal. But
yeah, it's a 1-year deal.
Okay,
and Trevor Williams is another one. Trevor Williams is another one. I'm not sure he's even going to be here by July.
If he keeps pitching, I mean, I'm not saying he's great, but he's had some real nice starts. And so you're right.
He's also had some awful ones.
He has had some awful ones. But if you could flip him, why wouldn't you?
That, or they just say, you know what, we need an innings eater. Like we just need someone to take the ball every 5 days. And remember, this is all hypothetical if the Cubs are selling, if the Cubs are look to the future. I mean, if they keep playing like this, I don't think they will. But if they keep playing like this and they have a legitimate shot to win the division or go to the playoffs, I almost think they have to take it, right? I mean, this is where things get really complicated. I mean, after the first month, after August, it looked like selling was going to be the most obvious thing ever. Now with the hot month of May, all of a sudden things get a bit more interesting. But over the next few weeks, we're going to see what happens. If they keep playing well and staying in it, it's going to get more interesting. If they fall back down to earth and start sucking again, then I think Jed Hoyer is going to say, you know what? If we're not within 4 games of a playoff spot, heck, maybe even like 3 games of a playoff spot, I think we got to sell. And the threshold for buying and selling, I think, is going to be a lot tighter this year in the sense of, let's say 2017. You go back to 2017, you remember the end of the first half. The Cubs were what, 5.5 back of the Brewers? Something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
They were never going to sell. They were going to go for it. In this case, if they're 5.5 back of first place, they're selling. They're absolutely selling.
I mean, it makes sense. It really makes sense. But, I mean, we'll see. But, yeah, going back to that is the starting pitching for next year. Zach Davies gone. Arrieta gone. Trevor Williams gone. You're looking at your top 3 is probably Kyle Hendricks, Adbert Alzolay moving up to your number 2 starter spot, and Alec Mills. And then you're relying on either picking up a 1-year veteran or bringing up 2 guys from the farm system.
Yeah, if you want to move Marquez into one of those roles.
You're probably moving him. And then, your rotation is going to be very cheap next year. You're going to have a very inexpensive rotation.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like this year when they shedded the Yu Darvish deal. And that's kind of something that's still irking me because look at the way the Cubs have played. Imagine if they still had Darvish as their ace and he was going 7 innings every night and he was giving up 3 runs or less consistently.
And he's doing well this year, too.
Not only would you have an ace. Yeah, he is. Not only would you have an ace, but you would be saving some bullpen arms. And this is the big reason that I don't think this is going to be sustainable. The bullpen has been lights out. You can't take away from it. They are playing very well. But they're going 4 or 5 innings every night. The starters are not going deep. A combination of high pitch counts and, frankly, Ross not letting them. There have been a few times. I mean, Zach Davies on Saturday, he was doing just fine. His pitch count was great. He gives up a base runner with 60-some pitches. Ross pulls him. Same thing with Trevor Williams. He was at 71 pitches in Pittsburgh. He doesn't let him go another inning. I mean,
to be fair, though, to be fair, who is giving them the confidence that they can get out of these situations?
I mean, which is fair, but I think at some point you got to just try to let your starters go a little deep because you're going to wear down this bullpen by July. We saw it with Joe Madden. I mean, remember 2018 when the bullpen was doing really, really well and then they had to work hard and they just fizzled out? That's what I'm worried about. The only thing that maybe gives me a little more ease with that is a lot of these arms are younger and some of them have been stretched out to be starters so they can take the workload a little more. I don't like having my bullpen have to go 4 or 5 innings every single night.
I 100% agree. Is if you're serious about winning, you need to, conservatively use that bullpen. You just got to.
And I'm not talking old days conservative because the game's changed. Bullpens are used and more important than ever, but they've been pitching a lot. There's no question about that. They have been really working hard all season for the first 2 months.
What else did I want to talk about the Cubs? There was the play earlier in the week, the Javi Baez El Mago play.
Oh my goodness. Patrick Wisdom just hit a ball to Kingdom Come. How about this guy?
He has just been
sorry to interrupt you,
out of nowhere.
But my goodness. This dude.
Like he really has come out of nowhere.
He has 4 home runs. He should have 5. I don't know if you remember that game against the Reds where the wind was blowing in at 40 miles an hour. He hit a ball that was knocked down, but they said that if there was no wind, it would have gone like off the video board.
I'm going to throw this out there. Is Patrick Wisdom is our version of Yerman Mercedes.
I mean, he's off to a Yerman Mercedes-like start, but
they're both older, coming in late and just tearing it up.
But if he swings at a 3-0 pitch, Anyway,
the El Mago play.
Yes.
Is I don't want to poop in anyone's Cheerios. It was an exciting play. It was fun to throw it on, MLB's Twitter, and that really is 100% the fact that the Pirates are terrible rather than Baez did magic. I don't know what the Pirates were doing in that situation. It was just boneheadedness, and it was just very heads up by Javi Baez. But number one, you can't rely on the other team just doing little league boneheaded plays to score runs. And I don't give as much credit to Javi Baez as maybe Twitter is, the fan world, because how in the world did the Pirates screw that up?
Well, I look at that play and I say, yeah, this is because of the Pirates being dumb, but you also got to give it to Javi too. He recognized that he was going to try to tag him and not just do what you're supposed to do and step on the bag. I mean, most runners would have just ran right up to them and just stopped and let them tag him. Baez said, no, I'm going to try to get into a rundown here.
A rundown going to first base from the batter's box.
He had nowhere to go. He had nowhere to go.
I get
Nobody else
I
thinks
get
of
it,
that.
But I just want to say those words out loud to say how incredibly stupid that sounds. Is the Pirates had a rundown with a guy coming out of the batter's box to first base.
It's very dumb. And the other thing, too, was Baez was just kind of skipping back towards home plate. And the Will Craig, I think his name is, just was gingerly skipping after him. I'm like, dude, all you had to do was like somewhat run forward and extend your arm and tag him. And I think the best thing about that whole thing was when Wilson Contreras came in to score, Baez just stands there and motions safe, and then Baez goes, oh shit, I gotta run too, don't I?
He's like safe, and then he looks over and goes, oh wait, there's nobody at first. I can make it to first. And
well, the thing is if Baez was still tagged out or the play went to first after that, the run would not have counted. So he still had to make it to first for that run to count. And he stood there flashing safe. Next thing he knows, he's on second base.
It's just the more you talk about it and the more details you give, you just realize, you're like, what a bungling bunch of idiots the Pirates are. This is why they're a last place team.
And the great thing was, everybody was talking about that play. I had friends who don't know jack shit about baseball, who I saw like the next day when we were hanging out on a Friday night. And one friend who knows nothing about baseball is laughing. He's like, dude, I saw that play on TV on the news. I never laughed that hard before. The guy literally went backwards and they just threw the ball into the outfield. Like, it was everywhere. And I think the Cubs views on their video feed, like, that had over 1 million views by the end of the day or something like that. I mean, just everywhere you looked, that play was on there.
Well, it was trending. It was trending
because no one had ever seen that before. I was watching that live too. I was watching it live, and I was just laughing, and I kept asking, "Is that legal? Is that legal?" Like, I couldn't process what was happening at first. I kept saying, "That is the craziest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen that before." And I don't go on Twitter anymore, but I had to go on Twitter just to see the reaction. And everyone was just mind blown. It was amazing. And I really want just the next time Baez grounds out and the throw goes kind of wide, but they still catch it, I just want him to run backwards again. They're absolutely not going to let that happen again, any other team, but I just want to see that happen.
How in the world do you let that happen? That's like a play that it's like a triple play. You might see that once a year, maybe. It's probably more rare than a triple play.
It's much more rare. I legit don't think we've seen that before.
I mean, it was fun, but the only reason that I'm very happy about it is because typically when plays like that start happening in your favor, it usually means you're on, a winning streak, because once the luck starts falling in your favor, and I'm not saying it was all luck, but there was a lot of luck involved in bad play on the other team, but it's when those types of things happen to teams that are on winning streak, good teams. So it's just like it's a bad team when outfielders collide, or the infielder and the outfielder collide. You're like, oof, our team is so bad. We've got players colliding. It's sort of like the eyeball test of where you're at.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, good things happen when you're winning. Bad things happen when you're losing. We've seen some losing streaks for the Cubs where just absolutely nothing has gone right. And then, they've started winning and things like that happen. And, remember too, immediately after that play, Ian Happ just blooped one into center field and they got another run out of it. And that play ended up being crucial for the Cubs, because if they don't make that play, they'd lose.
Right. So it's important to have those heads up plays. Important to have some of that luck on your side. Force other teams into situations where they're going to make mistakes, and that's part of creating a winning team. It's baseball. Baseball is for the most part is, even good teams just hover a little over 162 game season, only hover a little bit over 500. It's not like, these teams are, for the most part, are just running away with it like they do in football or we've seen in basketball.
Right.
There's teams that are very good teams that are just a couple of games over 500. So any little advantage you sort of need to take advantage of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you could say this for both the Cubs and the White Sox. When you're a team that's hot, you got to take advantage of bad teams. And both teams have done a great job doing that. And part of that weekend series, it was a weekday series, I should say. The weekday series against the Pirates was, you were coming off a series win in St. Louis, which was awesome because I was in St. Louis that same weekend. You came off a really tight win there. I mean, you dominated the first game. You lost a one-run game the second game. And then you pulled a win out of your ass to win 2-1 in that finale. You were able to get out of a bases-loaded, nobody-out jam with Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt coming up. I mean, that right there was telling you how well things were going for you at the time when you were able to wiggle out of that and able to escape a win there. And then, the Pirates almost felt like, well, here's a trap series because we just played St. Louis, and then after this, we got to play another division rival in the Reds who might not be great, but they're certainly better than the Pirates and have certainly been a thorn in our side and have more talent. And then you got to play the San Diego Padres. So you could have easily seen them lose 2 out of 3 in a trap series because as terrible as the Pirates are, they've just been a thorn in our side. Yeah, we've won a majority of the games against them, but a lot of them have been, claw and nail and tooth to the end against them. But they were able to take care of business and sweep them. And it may not seem like a huge deal to sweep the Pirates or, to take advantage of that, but it is because
if they don't, they're not at first.
Exactly. You need to take care of every advantage you get because the Cubs' schedule just gets tougher and tougher. I mean, eventually they're going to have to go back on the road. They're going to have to play the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. They're going to have to play the Padres in San Diego. That is going to be tough.
Absolutely. And then on the other side of town, we've got another first place team with the White Sox, who, again, despite not having 2 of their best players, are still ringing up runs. And they, for the most part, took care of St. Louis, did what they were supposed to do against Baltimore. And
yeah, I mean, they had absolutely crushed Baltimore, and they did. Isn't Baltimore on a 13-plus game losing streak right now?
Baltimore is not a good team. They have not been a good team for a long time.
No, that's what you got to beat the crap out of them, and they did exactly what they had to do.
And they did. They did exactly what they were supposed to do, and took advantage. And the reason why they needed it was so important is the team that's in second place, Cleveland. They're playing a tough series with them right now. They split a doubleheader yesterday, and the White Sox are down today. So this is a big series. You could, if you win this one, you could really start padding that lead, and I really think the White Sox can run away with this. I don't think
they should.
I don't think the Indians are for real, and then every other team in this division I think is kind of a joke. But you need to win the games against that team, and don't let them hang around.
Yeah, I mean, the Indians are the only team that I think poses like a microscopic threat, and even then, I think they'll fade. I think the Indians will be a wild card contender just with the pitching they have and Jose Ramirez, but not a division winner. I think the White Sox are going to win this division hands down. Nobody else is going to challenge them. The Tigers aren't going to challenge them. The Twins aren't going to challenge them, and the Royals are not going to challenge them. Those 3 teams are terrible. They're not going anywhere.
I mean, right now, before this game is decided, Detroit is 11 games out of first place. Minnesota's 10.5. So they're already running away from those 2 teams. They're 6 up on Kansas City and 3.5 up on Cleveland. So they're already creating that separation, and it's June 1st. They've just got to keep this up. And I know it's a tough record to keep up because They've got one of the better records in baseball, but you're also starting to see the bullpen becoming the bullpen that we expected to see on opening day.
Yeah, it's certainly been better.
Hendricks
and you needed it to be.
Hendricks is the guy that they expected to get when they signed him.
Yeah. Yeah, no question.
He's been on fire recently, and
didn't he strike out like 3 in a row when he inherited bases loaded, nobody out against the Cardinals?
I don't know. I was just watching those the score boxes because I was not in town, so I didn't see any of the game. Except I saw maybe like 1 or 2 innings when I was in the airport of one of the games.
Sure.
But yeah, I didn't see. But it's, you're starting to see some good outings from Giolito. You saw one against St. Louis. You saw another one against Baltimore, which, I don't know what you expect out of that one. Lance Lynn has been fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he might be Cy Young candidate right now for the American League. He at least has to be top 5.
I mean, look what he did against St. Louis. Whew.
Yeah, against his former team.
He said,
and I think it's fair to say there was a little extra motivation there.
Well, afterwards, he even said it. He said, "This was the most satisfying win I've ever had that's outside of the playoffs."
Yeah, I mean, that tells you right there.
And then he had, another fantastic start against Baltimore, and right now his ERA is sub 1.5.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Rodon had a rough start yesterday against Cleveland. Pushed his ERA up to 2.
Oh, wow, all the way to 2.
Not quite. It's just slightly under 2.
Which I don't think is much of a concern. You're going to have a bad outing every now and then.
Yeah, I'm not, the weather, it was a short game, holiday weekend.
And you can't, it's good. No matter how good you are, you're not going to sustain an ERA below 1 as a starter. That's just not possible.
Right. And I mean, he had a good game against St. Louis in the game that they lost, but he only gave up 1 run.
No run support.
Yeah, he got no
run support.
When he went out he pitched 6 innings, gave up 1 run, and that would have been, even if they didn't score any more runs, he loses 1-0 because the White Sox gave him nothing. But, I think he's had like 2 clunkers this season, but man, he's had some gems.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was really funny in that final game against the Cardinals with the White Sox. The one Cardinal pitcher who was forced to have his hat changed by Joe West, who was just breaking the record of games umpired, and that whole thing because, there's something on the hat, so they had to change it. And I think you're going to see more and more of that because they're trying to crack down on substances on baseballs.
All right. I'm going to say my piece on this.
Okay.
So the manager of the Cardinals, his excuse was, well, my guy, he just had, some suntan lotion on there because, he didn't want to get a sunburn, doesn't want to get melanoma. But everybody else is cheating. Yeah. Everybody else is cheating except my guys. We're clean. And no, listen, there is an epidemic of pitchers cheating, putting stuff on baseballs. Absolutely. Without question, that is legit happening. And we've had multiple guys get caught this season, and there's just no repercussions for it. There's no repercussions.
Yeah, it's you basically, you got caught, change your hat. Use this new ball. Do this, do that.
Wash your hands. There's no repercussions. So why wouldn't? It's not like steroids where now I think the steroid policy is working.
You barely see PED suspensions anymore.
Yeah, because you're 80 game suspension. Nobody wants to deal with that. The guys that are getting caught are guys that are at the end of their careers anyway, trying to get that one last taste. And that's the guys that are getting caught. You're not seeing it like you did. The testing has been far superior. It's baseball now needs to crack down on this. Stop guys from adding substances. It is easy to see. But this is also a league that had a team win a World Series cheating by stealing signs, and no repercussions for that. I mean, I'm sorry, there was a light hand slap, but other than that, there's really no repercussions.
Yeah, compared to what people were speculating with, maybe some people getting banned, maybe some people serving long game suspensions, maybe season long, and losing some draft picks, but it wasn't anything near the strict punishments that people seeked for them. That's for sure.
The punishments were worse when the dude from the Cardinals stole the login for the computer system for the Astros. That was worse.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's amazing. That's the same code I have on my luggage.
So baseball needs to start cracking down on this. And Joe West is an absolute buffoon. And watch, he's going to sue me now. But he's a buffoon, and he was right. If you see something on somebody's hat, make them change the hat. I mean, at the bare minimum, I don't.
He got booed at Wrigley.
I don't know
this weekend.
I don't know what else the umpire can do. I don't know if they're able to throw them out of a game for that, but he at least did something. He go change your hat. And I don't understand, where the Cardinals' upsetness is from it, because he clearly had stuff on his hat.
Vagisil. Sometimes I just put a little jalapeno on my nose and I let it run. You put snot on the ball?
That's such a good movie.
I could quote that all day long. Yeah, sunscreen. When I heard him say that, I just immediately thought of Ed Harris.
Wasn't it a night game?
No, it was a day game.
Was it a day game? Okay.
That would have been so funny. That would have been the funniest thing ever. That's like saying, oh, the wind knocks the kick down if you're playing at Ford Field in Detroit, which is indoors.
But I just, they need to crack down on this. They really do. And, the one time, I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Joe West did what he needed to do and called them out on it. And it didn't change anything. But, at least the hitters aren't, getting sunscreen balls. But honestly, how do the hitters not complain about this? They know it's happening. It's just like baseball just mum on all these things.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you remember when the Astros were doing their sign stealing, there were several pitchers who were calling meetings on the mound saying, yeah, they got our signs. We got to switch things up. So, people clearly noticed. I don't know.
But, I mean, stealing signs has happened, but using technology to steal signs, I don't know if anybody knew that was happening. Because since the dawn of baseball, since the dawn of having signs, people have stolen signs. It's just, you have a guy on second base. He's going to relay it to they're calling a fastball.
Right, but when people were pitching and there was nobody on base and they heard certain bangs in the dugout at certain signs, that raises a lot of questions.
That's the point where somebody should have raised flags and and done an investigation, because to me is a huge black eye on the sport. And it's amazing to me that players on that team are still upset that people are being mean to me. What do you expect? You stole a World Series.
Well, think about it. In baseball, it's clearly been the sport that has the most cheating tactics, whether it's stealing signs, whether it's using substances on your fingers, or whether it's using steroids. I mean, sure, steroids exist in other sports, but do you hear about, maybe it's happening. We have heard about football cheating scandals. I shouldn't say baseball is the only one, but it seems like baseball is where it's happening most frequently.
I mean, football, it happens, but it's really only at Foxborough.
Filming things
Yeah.
and deflating balls, and you know.
The other cheating is, we added some speaker crowd noise to our crowd noise to make it a little louder. Oh, okay. Everyone's going on silent counts anyway at loud stadiums, but really, other than the Patriots, there's not a ton of rampant cheating. It's baseball. Baseball is the sport of cheaters.
Yeah, it is. It's, since the steroid era, it's been coming out a lot. I mean, in the old days, people could get away with a lot of stuff. Sure, they tried to regulate spitballs, but, think about it. Spitballs were a thing since the beginning of baseball. They were always trying to find ways to make the ball move and do weird things.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, but you gotta stop that from happening. You just, people are going to try to cheat. And the trick is when you see it, you stop it. When you hear about it, you investigate it. Oh, he said he was throwing spitballs. All right, next time he goes out there, if you see a ball do something weird, you go look at it. And if we see spit on it, you throw him out. Or we suspend him. Something. You have punishment for breaking rules.
Yeah.
But yeah, the White Sox, are a really good team, and you're seeing guys, not only the big name guys doing things, but this week you saw back-to-back games where Billy, the Masher Hamilton, hit a home run.
And actual home runs over the fence, not using his speed with Little League home runs. We got to make that clear.
Yes, very clear. This was not a home run where, you could play the Benny Hill music over it because there was buffoonery, or, the ball hit somewhere weird on the outfield and then ricocheted and then the outfielder fell down. No, these were actual home runs. Like,
yeah,
they went over the fence. Billy Hamilton. I mean, the guy's still. He's
got 3.
I would say he's not batting his weight, but I think Billy Hamilton comes in at $125, so he is hitting his weight, but he's still not hitting well.
No, but give him credit for those home runs, and he's got 3 home runs in that ballpark since the beginning of last year. Because remember, he hit one as a Cub against the White Sox, so he likes hitting at guaranteed rate field. At least that's the place he could hit over the wall.
90% of his home runs in his career are at that stadium.
Yeah, 90% probably.
He's got 3 there. Yeah, but the White Sox, I do anticipate them continuing to put the pressure on the rest of this division. The Cleveland Indians have the White Sox number a little bit, and I think that's the reason that they're even hanging around. But the White Sox,
I just don't think it's
not going to last. It's definitely not going to last.
Yeah, so if I were a Sox fan, I wouldn't even be worried about winning the division right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking like they'll lose today, but
well, you never know. They got the offense to come back.
I mean, they do have a runner on second with 1 out, so who knows? I don't just breathe White Sox fans. You got a great team, and you're going to run away with this division. So, seriously, this is what a legitimate World Series contender looks like. Yeah, I'm not going to be, Mr. Oh, I guarantee that they would. I'm just saying is, you look at the makeup of this team, you look at the success they're having. This is a legitimate team that has a chance to win a World Series. In the American League, it's the White Sox, Tampa, Boston, New York, Houston, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to, but I think you got to have them in the conversation. I think they'll be in the playoffs at least. And then you can throw Oakland in there as well as a playoff contender, but not as a World Series.
Yeah, they're a good regular season team, and that's what happens is Billy Beane's able to put together a team that does well in the regular season. They don't have the horsepower to win a World Series. So I'm not going to put them in there, but really, there's like 4 or 5 teams that are World Series contenders from the American League, and the White Sox are one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No question. And I think what's good too is they're able to create some separation early from most of the teams. And you could say, look, you just got to have one team to focus on, so you're not exhausting yourself trying to create a lot of separation as we go forward, because, you're going to need to have time to get ready for the postseason, and you might or may not have Luis Robert or Eloy Jimenez back. So, it can take a little pressure off when you create some separation from most of the division early. I mean, remember 2016 with the Cubs? They had such a big lead by August that they were just having bullpen days just to give guys rest. That's always a good thing to have to keep your guys fresh.
Yeah, and of the three of the 4 or 5 teams from the American League that are legit World Series contenders play in the same division. They're going to be fighting it out tooth and nail until the very end. I mean, you look at that division, and the Tampa, Boston, and New York are all really good teams, and they're going to be fighting it out. I don't see anybody running away with that division. Now, Tampa's playing great, but I don't see them running away with it. But you're gonna see them have to play tough all the way to the end, where hopefully the White Sox have a big cushion come the second half of the season, especially at the end when you got it locked up, and you rest some guys, you line up your rotation the way you want to, you get your bullpen set up the way you want to, and having that lead really gives you the benefit to be able to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to create as much separation as possible, less stress the better. And the Yankees, Rays, and Boston, yeah, it's going to be a very interesting race out there in the AL East. Those are 3 really intriguing teams. Boston is playing way better than we thought, but Boston does have some talent. So if they end up being buyers at the deadline, that could really make them an interesting team. Obviously, the Yankees are the perennial favorite, and if Judge and Stanton are healthy, that's as dangerous of a duo as it gets. And Tampa Bay, they just keep growing the prospects. I mean, have you seen their farm system? Like, their top 10 are all in the top 100, and they have the top prospect in baseball in Wander Franco. So if you see him come up soon, the Rays are going to be the most interesting small budget team ever. I know we've been saying about the A's all these years, but the Rays have really developed a lot of great talent over the years.
They really have. And, it sucks when they don't have the budget to be able to keep some of those guys. Just imagine if they could put the payroll up of a Dodgers. I mean, I guess the Dodgers do a really good job of replenishing the farm system too, but, the Rays have done a fantastic job.
And it's crazy because if they have a veteran who's coming towards the end of a deal, or they just feel like, all right, we got the max out of him we think we can get, let's trade him for more top prospects. Like, they just keep doing that cycle, and it keeps the team working for them. I mean, they have more pennants since 2008 than the New York Yankees.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so they have the 139th, 58th, 70th, 71st, and 76th prospects.
I mean, that farm system just it makes you wish that some of their farm teams around here, because you'd love to see them, because you see their farm teams and every time you watch them, there's some sort of stud prospect playing for them.
But then you also, I mean, they've sucked for a long time, but the Mariners have the 4, the 5, the 25, the 27, 77, 83rd, and 89th prospects.
Yeah, that kid Kelnick, there's a lot of hype around him.
Yeah, I mean, talking about talking about things to a church group got their GM fired.
Yeah. Going back to Wander Franco for a second, he is, let's see. So 20 years old, and right now prospect ranking, number 1 Baseball America, number 1 Major League Baseball, number 1 Baseball Prospectus for the past 2 years for all these guys. All these guys have ranked him number 1 throughout the past 2 years. And, right now he's made 103 plate appearances for AAA, 272, 340, 511, 851. Last year he was 350, 435, 500 with, let's see. Okay, that looks like a fall league or something, or it's yeah. But I know that's a small sample size. It was only 5 games, but this guy could swing it. I kind of can't wait to see him play. I love that modern baseball has given us so much access to farm systems in minor league baseball, because minor league baseball is it's great on its own. Like, it's just a great entity. But the fact that we're seeing these superstars develop with more accessibility, I mean, we have Marquee showing minor league ball games. They're showing the Iowa Cubs. I think that's awesome. That's probably one of the best things that they've implemented, is showing those games.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great because you can go to these whatever towns and go see a guy that's going to be a superstar someday for like $8, and there's like 3,000 people there.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of people are going to be going in flocks to the minor league ball games this year because we didn't get them last year, and a lot of people missed it, as they should. As I said, minor league baseball is great. And, speaking of television, I remember the White Sox on NBC Net, they were showing some of the Charlotte Knights games. And I think just more and more you're seeing networks pick up more minor league games on TV, and I think that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. You have such information at your fingertips, and it's creating a more educated fan. I mean, when I was a kid, you knew who your number 1 prospect was, and that was it. And that wasn't even that long ago. Like, I mean, I could think, oh man, like, I remember, it was Jerome Walton and Dwight Smith. I'm like, oh man, we got the future right here. And then for years it was Felix P.A. We're like, oh man, this is the guy. And I couldn't even tell you another minor league system guy because it just, you didn't know who they were. They weren't the box scores in the newspaper. They weren't playing the games on TV unless you went to like an Iowa Cubs game, drove to Iowa. You had no idea. And even then, how do you, going to one game, how do you judge who's a guy that's, the best in your farm system? How do you do that?
Yeah, exactly. So the accessibility makes things just so much better.
And Felix P, I only knew him because, you'd have like Vineline magazine would be talking about, oh, he's coming. And then the announcers every once in a while would be like, oh, we're probably a couple months away from seeing the debut of Felix P. Like, all right. And then I got to see him play in the minors at the end of his career. Which was this very sad part of seeing him play.
When he was like in his 30s or whatever.
Yeah, when there was no way he was ever going to make a major league roster ever again. And I happened to be in Indianapolis, and I was like, oh, I'm going to catch a minor league game. And I was like, oh man, that's Felix P.A. Oof. He's playing on a Wednesday night in Indianapolis to 3,000 people.
Yeah, I remember him very well.
He didn't live up to the hype.
No. Oh, and, Corey Patterson was like the same way, but Corey Patterson, he had insane talent, but he got a lot of injury bug problems. He was hurt all the time. I think if he wasn't hurt like that, he would have panned out.
I mean, I would say Jerome Walton and Dwight Smith were bigger fizzles because they went 1-2 in the Rookie of the Year voting. Like, they did it.
Yeah, they did.
Did it at the major league level for a team that went deep in the playoffs, and then they just fizzled out.
Yeah.
I don't even remember how long they played, but it skyrocketed down.
Mm-hmm.
It was coming down like a Chinese missile.
And, you know, I feel like that nowadays our development is better than ever. So you see more of these prospects hit. Obviously, not every prospect is going to hit, but I think you see more guys live up to the hype or at least turn into serviceable ball players. I don't have any data to back that up. It just seems that way. Maybe it's just the way that these prospects are hyped more and we have more accessibility to these guys. But it would be interesting to see, like, kind of like, you know, developing prospects living up to the hype now versus, say, 20 plus years ago.
Man, Jerome Walton is 55 years old.
Wonder what he's doing these days.
I don't know. But yeah, I'm looking here. I mean, he played 4 seasons for the Cubs. Then played 5 games for the Angels. And then he played 2 seasons with the Reds. And then a few games for Atlanta, a few games for Baltimore. And just his career fell off. I'm just looking at it. He won Rookie of the Year with a 385 slugging and a 335 on base percentage.
Jerome Walton?
Yes.
Well, it was the late 80s.
Yeah. But
it was pre-steroid era.
So his rookie season, he had a 2 F4, and he finished his career with a 4.3 F4.
Well, it's
I don't think my Jerome Walton autographed rookie card is going to be worth anything.
Well, you don't think so?
At least not enough to retire off of.
Oh, come on now. Jerome Walton's the GOAT.
And then Dwight Smith. Let's look at... Dwight Smith. So his rookie year, he had an 875 OPS with a 382 on base, 493 slugging. And then he just bottomed out. Strikeout rate went up from 13.4 to 17.8. Oh, and then his last 2 seasons, it was almost 25%. Man. His WRC plus his rookie season was 148. Then the next season went down to 91, then to 68. Brutal. He had a 2.5 WAR his rookie year, and he finished his career with a 3.3 WAR.
Yikes.
That is called flash in the pan.
Hey, better to flash than have no flash, right?
That's true. Maybe if I sell my Dwight Smith rookie card and my autographed Jerome Walton rookie card and my autographed Jerome Walton baseball, maybe I could retire off of that.
Maybe.
Come on, big winner. I don't have any Bulls or Blackhawks talk. I don't know if you do.
No, all I got to say is about the Blackhawks. I want to say something really quick. I was on a walk and I was thinking today about the Blackhawks just randomly. And you know what I said? they need to make a splash this offseason. Whether it's a trade, whether it's a signing, they need to make a splash. Stop putzing around. That's the only thought I wanted to share.
I don't know where they make that splash that makes a huge difference. I just want whatever they do to be sustainable. I want sustainable winning. I don't want to get into cap trouble again where you got to start dealing off from players and retooling. They finally got themselves out of salary cap hell, and I don't want to go back to it.
Yeah, but if you bring a player in their prime and it makes you a lot better, like, I don't want to be on the fritz anymore. I feel like we're just kind of chugging along. Like, make something happen.
I mean, obviously, they have to get better. They obviously have to get better. They have to do something to get better. But I am nervous about Stan throwing around money and the long-term benefits of that.
Right, and I'm not saying throw around money. I'm saying bring a player that can legit make a big step forward. Especially if Jonathan Toews isn't going to be here. Like, we don't know that yet. I'm just saying, if Jonathan Toews is not here, you absolutely have to make a move.
I mean, I would agree. You got to maximize what time you have with Toews and Kane. Maximize the time you have with some of these young players before you got to start signing them to, beyond entry-level contracts.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't... in my opinion, I get rebuilding. I get the philosophy behind it. I get trying to develop guys, but I just feel like eventually you can't rely on everything being in-house because that's only going to get you so far. And looking at next year, I want the Blackhawks to be in the playoff mix next year. I don't want to have another, we'll rebuild and see how we develop year. I think they got to take a step forward. I think they need to shoot for the playoffs next year.
Oh, absolutely.
Rebuilds in hockey should not take 3 to 5 years like baseball.
Yeah, if they're not in the playoffs next year, then there's something really wrong.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, just one last hockey note. Aren't you glad you're not a Toronto Maple Leafs fan?
Oh my God. I have a friend that's a big hockey fan who I've been trying to get him to start a hockey podcast. I think he would really excel at it. But man, he on Facebook just been throwing the most brutal Maple Leafs memes around that are just like, I'm crying. There's one. It's like I don't know if you do Instagram or TikTok.
I do Instagram.
I don't know if you've ever seen the reels, like the trend on reels where it's like, you want me, I want you, baby. And so it had like a lady in a Maple Leafs jersey and she's like bragging and she's like, you want me. And then it shows the Stanley Cup with a mouth on it getting ready to say, I want you, baby. And then it interrupts with somebody they took a player from the Maple Leafs and they put like a fake talking mouth on him. And it's like, the fuck I do? Get the fuck out of here, you basic bitch. And then there was another one. It had the meme with like all the Spider-Mans pointing at each other, like the cartoon. And then it had like the Maple Leafs logo on his head, and it had all of the years that they choked in the playoffs, and they were all pointing at each other.
Ooh.
It's been brutal, man. I can't imagine how they feel. He had another one before they lost, and it had like a picture, and it said, pressing your finger to your temple can help alleviate stress. And then it said, Maple Leafs fans right now, and it had a picture of like a baby doll with the head caved in.
Oh. Brutal.
It's been brutal, but better them than us.
Yeah. No kidding.
But yeah, I do want to wrap this up a little bit with just a couple of Bears points, nothing crazy. Is one, Eddie Jackson has a cereal coming out that should be hitting Mariano's. I think it's exclusive to Mariano's very soon, and all the proceeds are going to his charity. So, if you want to have a cereal to eat while you're watching Saturday morning cartoons, get the Eddie Jackson cereal. The profits go to a good cause. I will be picking up some. I'm sure it's not going to taste delicious, but
well, it's like the Keith Crunch and the Rizzos and all that good stuff. That was, that was edible. So if it's like that, I'll definitely pick up some, no matter what.
Yeah, so I will pick up some Eddios or whatever they're being called. So I will pick those up. So they're at Mariano's. So definitely be on the lookout for that.
All right, good to know. And it looks like JD just spilled coffee in the booth.
That's hilarious. But then Bears notes is the Charles Leno was officially cut today. They designated him as a June 1st cut. So, I know people have asked me why the Bears haven't signed any of their draft picks yet, where other teams have their whole draft class all but wrapped up, because the Bears couldn't. They couldn't until June 1st because they didn't have the cap room. They had to wait until the Charles Leno cap room came down. So with Leno gone, as of right now, after they sign their draft picks, they'll have about $5 million in cap space to spend. And the rumors are that they're entertaining Morgan Moses, who was a cap casualty from the Washington football team. And last year, he was actually one of the better rated tackles by Pro Football Focus. Hasn't missed a game in several seasons. And, solid player, Morgan Moses, a veteran. And if they were able to bring him in, I would feel much better about the offensive line, because you actually, instead of having to rely on Alex Bars, who was an undrafted rookie, a 5th-round pick in Larry Barome, and Jermaine Ifedi, who's been not very good, to somebody to win that starting tackle spot, you can pretty much hand it to Morgan Moses, and you would have, a guy who at center who played well for you last year, 2 guards who played very well for you last year, a tackle who played very well, and your highly rated rookie tackle prospect over at left tackle, and you could use Jermaine Ifedi as your swing tackle, which is where he's probably best served right now. It would make me feel much better about the offensive line and protecting Andy Dalton and Justin Fields.
I think that would be a pretty big get. And I'm not saying that the guy's in his prime. I know he's in his 30s, but I still think having an experienced lineman like that would do nothing but good things for the team. Not only helping protect guys like your quarterbacks, but also as a nice, learning source for your young guys that you've brought in.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have to pay him a ton of money. I think you can bring him in on 1-year prove-it deal. Maybe if you need to, do it as a 2-year deal with backloaded and fling some of the money into next year's cap. But I think that makes, if you bring him in, that makes your offensive line at worst average, and at best, probably maybe a top 12 offensive line, 10-12. I think it makes you, with an average offensive line, you're going to see better play. I think David Montgomery was the 5th leading rusher last year in the NFL, surprisingly.
Yeah, he had over 1,000 yards.
I think you give him more opportunity, especially now that you have a better running back room this year, at least on paper. Gives you more time for and if you establish a running game and you protect your quarterback, that's going to do things helping you open up your offense. So I don't see why you wouldn't at least try. And it seems like, the Jets and the Bears are the two teams that are pushing the hardest for him. So we'll see how that goes. The other one is I'm hearing rumors that the Bears might be interested in Bashaud Breeland, the cornerback, which, again, I don't think he's got a ton in the tank. He's not, but he's a veteran. And I think there's a lot of youth on the Bears secondary. And, sometimes youth is good, but, man, sometimes you just need a veteran in there to help those young kids learn and to stabilize things. And I think he could be had on the cheap, like a $2 million deal. I think if you're somehow able to get Morgan Moses and Bashaud Breeland, that I think for a team that had no cap room, this is kind of a home run off season.
Yeah, for sure.
You land what you're hoping is your quarterback of the future, your left tackle of the future, and you bring in guys that can stabilize your team while you try to get into a window of contention. I think for a team that has no money, I think it's pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to look at the bargain bin that could have any sort of value because you don't have much to spend. So, I know a lot of names won't sound overwhelming, but that's just kind of the position you're in right now.
Absolutely. And my Justin Fields jersey did come in, and I've worn it with pride. I got the orange one. So I fully expect him now to make the Hall of Fame and lead the Bears to multiple Super Bowls.
Chill. I mean, I would love that, but
no, I'm just excited. I bought a new Bears jersey for the first time in a while, and I'm very excited that it's the first quarterback jersey I've ever bought from the Bears. Like, it is the first quarterback jersey. I've had Lance Briggs, I've had Julius Peppers, I've had Devin Hester, Brian Urlacher, Bronco Nagurski, Walter Payton. I have never had a quarterback.
I mean, you didn't really have a reason to have a quarterback, let's be real.
That's true. I did not run out to get a Jay Cutler jersey. I didn't run out to get a Mitch Trubisky jersey. I feel different about Justin Fields. I think a lot of people do too, because when I was in Wrigleyville the other day, I saw multiple Justin Fields jerseys around. Well, did you see who the top 5 selling jerseys are right now?
Well, I know Fields is one of them.
Fields is 3 of them. The number 4 or 3, 4, and 5 selling jerseys are the Bears Justin Fields white jersey, the Bears Justin Fields blue jersey, and the Bears Justin Fields orange jersey.
Was the orange the third of those?
I think it was the second. I think it was blue, orange, white.
That makes sense. I was going to say, I'd be surprised if white was the leading one. I would have thought that the leading one would have been either orange or blue.
Now, let's see. Can you name who the number 1 and number 2 selling jerseys in the NFL are?
Trevor Lawrence?
Nope. Right team, wrong player.
Oh, Tebow.
Tebow is 1 and 2.
Oh, my God.
The teal and the white jerseys are the 1 and 2 jersey.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a novelty, so.
But why in the world would you buy the jersey of a guy who's a camp invite tight end?
Because it's Tim Tebow.
But you just drafted the number 1 pick in Trevor Lawrence. Do you get a Trevor Lawrence jersey? This is why Jacksonville doesn't deserve a team. They should move this team somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too is those jerseys ain't cheap.
No, they're not.
So yeah, it's fun to get novelties, but if they're like, old and you find them at like the bargain mart or something, I got an old Nathan Vasher on resale for like $8. Of course I'm going to get that, but these authentic jerseys, these new ones, they're expensive.
Yeah, I mean the last Bears jersey I got was a Julius Peppers one, so that's been a while, and it was, I want to say it was like $65 or $70, and I got this Justin Fields one. I was like, oof, they're pricey. These Nike jerseys are pricey, but you know what? I am going to have a Bears quarterback jersey, and I feel confident that he's going to do good things.
Well, let's hope that you are not the great jinx of Justin Fields and the Bears.
I hope I'm not. I really hope I'm not. And, I'm going to hope. And listen, I'm a Bears fan that's going to root super hard for Andy Dalton. Because at the end of the day, I want the Bears to win.
Me too.
And if Justin Fields doesn't play this year, that means the Bears are pretty decent. Because if they're bad, Justin Fields is going to come in and play. I think that just saving jobs.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, if Justin Fields sits for the whole year, that means Andy Dalton is doing all right. Because if Andy Dalton stinks or the Bears stink, the pressure is going to be on Pace and Nagy to bring in Justin Fields.
Oh yeah.
But if you see Andy Dalton have a bounce back, year where he looks like the guy in Cincinnati, you're like, all right, he's a serviceable guy. Then the Bears are going to exceed expectations, and you probably don't see Justin Fields, and I would love to see that. Give Justin Fields the whole year to learn the offense and not be rushed into things, and let Andy Dalton, believe me, I will be leading the charge to kick Andy Dalton out of the starting gig if he stinks, but I'm going to be rooting hard for him to do well.
Me too, and I really like Andy Dalton. I like him a lot, and I know he's past his prime, and I know I've expressed my frustration when we thought he was going to be like the answer this year, but I still really like Andy Dalton, and I think he's going to provide more leadership than when they tried to make Mike Glennon a thing. I know it sounds corny and cliche, but I mean,
Mike Glennon
said this on the show, and I say it again.
Mike Glennon had never proved anything. He was a guy. He was
Andy
a guy
Dalton
that had played a couple of games where he did a couple of magical things that were just sheer luck. And the Bears signed him to a big contract, and you had a young GM that was absolutely stupid and made a really bad decision and got bilked by an agent. And, that was Andy Dalton. On the other hand, you look at his stats, and he's had multiple seasons where it would be the single greatest quarterback season in Chicago Bears history if he put those numbers up for the Bears.
He's had multiple Pro Bowls. He's thrown for over 4,000 yards in multiple seasons, and he's had a season of 30-plus touchdown passes.
And again,
Mike Glennon can't say any of that.
And again, when I was upset about Andy Dalton being our starting quarterback, it had nothing to do with me hating Andy Dalton. It was why in the world are you signing this guy, anointing him quarterback one, when that is not the upgrade we needed to compete? It was my indictment of Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy, not on Andy Dalton.
And you and I made it pretty clear on that first show that we were not mad at Andy Dalton. We were mad at Pace and Nagy.
And I'm still mad at them for the money they gave him. They gave him starter money. low caliber starter money.
Yeah, he should only be making $4 to $5 million at the most.
Absolutely. I'm fine if you give him a $5 million deal and then with incentives that can go up to 10 or 12, make him earn that. I'm okay with that, because then if he earns it, you're like, all right, well, he was worth the money, because even $12 million for a starting quarterback is today's NFL very cheap. And if you get those incentives, then you've earned it and you've made yourself worthwhile. And then if you suck, then you're a high paid backup.
Yeah, exactly.
Not even the highest paid backup, so it's,
and I mean, let's put everything in perspective. Let's say they drafted Justin Fields first. Everyone was hype about it. And you said, you know what? I know we got Nick Foles, but we're going to bring in Andy Dalton to be QB1 / another veteran backup. And you brought him in on a $4 million deal. Do you think anyone would have really objected to that, knowing that you had Justin Fields and knowing that he wasn't necessarily the solution? Probably not.
It just depends on the money at that point.
Right, exactly.
But it's, but you look at Andy Dalton's stats, and like even last year he wasn't great, but he wasn't terrible. I have a friend that's a diehard Cowboys fan, and he said it was their offensive line play that really killed Andy Dalton. But the last season that he was in Cincinnati, he threw for 3,500 yards.
Mm-hmm.
He's a career 87.5 quarterback rating, which is not great, but it's respectable. It's all right. And you're right. He had a season with almost 4,300 yards and one with 4,200 yards, and the stats aren't terrible.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you can just get serviceable Andy Dalton, I think that's the most you could ask for.
Yeah. I mean, you look at Mitch Trubisky's best season ever, he threw for 3,200 yards. And Andy Dalton has did that more than that in his rookie year, his second year, his third year, his fourth year, his fifth year, sixth year. It wasn't until 2018 that he didn't beat Mitch Trubisky's best passing yards number.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Andy Dalton and you look at the situation you have now. You say, okay, Andy Dalton's the starter. I don't think anyone will see us as he's going to solely win us games. But you remember when the defense was still really good in 2018 and for much of 2019, we saw games won by Chase Daniel. Now, we know that Andy Dalton is better than Chase Daniel. So if the defense can kind of get back to that form with a new coach and not really a Chuck Pagano-like scheme with that defense and can really play well enough, and Andy Dalton just plays well enough, then you can win games. You're not shouldering on Andy Dalton to win games solely. I mean, you remember in Dallas, I'm not saying Andy Dalton was good, but he didn't have a defense to back him up at all. So, I mean, if you get a little bit from Andy Dalton, a little bit from the defense, you can have a shot at winning games. It's not going to be easy, especially since the schedule is really hard. But, as long as you get contributions from both sides fairly equally, then you can have a shot at winning some games with Andy Dalton.
Yeah, absolutely. And he just had a terrible offensive line with Dallas that didn't help anything at all.
No, I mean, and let's face it, when you look at mobile quarterbacks, Andy Dalton is not on that list.
No, I mean, there's been seasons that he could at least move around a little bit, but he's not. He's no Lamar Jackson.
No. He's not a statue like Nick Foles, but he's no Lamar Jackson. He's no Aaron Rodgers. He's not even like a Jay Cutler. he can move better than some quarterbacks, but he's not going to rely on his mobility, or it's not really a major asset of his game at this point of his career.
Yeah. But is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think I've said my piece.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, TuneIn, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. It's how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com. Alex Pat Sports Chat on Facebook or alexpatsportschat.blogspot.com for more of Alex's work. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. Until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like Denver New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears. Oh, when the Bears go bearing down, I wanna